All right. I am going to declare us live, as I do every Wednesday night, for the Awesemo.com PGA Live Before Lock show. Myself, Ben Rasa, here with Jason Rouslin. I'm going to pass it to you immediately. Who else do we have with us?
Yeah, man, we've got a special guest on tonight, one of our buddies internally, Mr. Ryan Patnick, and he goes by Rypack. You can find him on Twitter.
Rinpack.
Rinpack? Did I say it wrong?
Okay.
I knew I was going to say it wrong. I'm always saying stuff wrong. It's just what I do. It's kind of my trademark here. So Rinpack has joined us today on the show for our first little segment here because he took down the big $5 contest on DraftKings last week for $100K, and we're going to talk to him about how he did it. So Mr. Rinpack, Ryan, how you doing tonight, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well. Excited to be on one of these after listening to you guys for almost over a year plus. Yeah, your duo every Wednesday when I used to work in the Chicago Awesemo office. Me and Alex would tune in to you guys every Wednesday. So excited to be on as a guest and excited to talk about my good fortune over the past weekend.
Yeah, man. Let's jump right into that as we start off our week here, and we get a lot of questions about how we do MME, how we work it, how we use the tools that we have here to kind of build out those lineups. So as we bring up the lineup here, first let's just talk a little bit about your sweat, man. You were in the car, so you couldn't even really watch it. You're trying to figure out who was winning. What did you do, man? What got you through this ultimate sweat here?
So, funny story. I was in Ann Arbor. My parents were picking me up from my grad school apartment. We were going to pick up some dinner. And I was in the process of picking up some dinner with my parents. And I was in the car, and I had an idea, like I was close, but it was like hole 16, 17, and 18. And it was just going back and forth. I was going from 1 through 7 to 4. It was just like the golf sweat for me. I was like not new to this. I was like, this is ridiculous. What's going on? Dealing with the rain delay. And so my good friend Seth, everyone's favorite troll in the Slack chat, I asked him, is this lineup live? He's like, yeah, it's very live. I was like, can you help me sweat through this? Because I didn't know how to properly sweat this golf. And for me, it came down to, I think, Willett, he birdied something in 17. And that 16, put me down. I was like, all right, he birdied here. I just need to finish this off. I'll be content with a top 5 finish. It's been a good sweat. And then he messages me on 18. He's like, he double bogeyed, and then I propelled to first. He's like, you won. I was like, are you sure? And it was final after I picked up some food. I didn't tell my parents at the time, and we were driving back to my parents' home. And I told them at dinner. That's pretty much one of the most unique sweats I've had because I'm not watching what's happening, just getting notified through Slack DMs, and the rest is history. It was an exciting sweat, regardless, but it was unique, and I don't expect a sweat like that to happen ever again.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly not every chance you get a chance to win a big GPP on DraftKings with a 6-figure prize pool for sure. And the fact that in golf, especially with this tournament, the way it played out, there are so many variables going around. I mean, 2 birdies and you go from a T20 to basically a T6. We saw that with Matt Fitzpatrick, who's in your lineup here. I mean, what a Sunday he had. So let's talk about that. Matt Fitzpatrick was 6% owned in your lineup. Jason Day, 8%. Talk us how you got to this lineup, maybe even more a little bit to your allocations on what you put in, what tools you used first, and then your allocations. And then thirdly, do you believe you created this lineup by yourself, or was it one of the generations based off of your rules that you put in?
Yeah. So, funny thing about Matt Fitzpatrick, I have a friend who was a DFS player. He's former D1 golfer. And I asked him, it was on Saturday going into Sunday, I was like, what needs to happen for this to even have a chance? He's like, Fitzpatrick has to go ham and Xander needs to go just not blow up. I was like, okay, let's see if this does it. And he was like, you have a chance, but I don't expect you to win. I was like, all right, fine. And the funny thing was I sent him my text. I was like, yo, you lied. It was live. I won. That's the story behind Fitzpatrick. So onto your main question was, so I pretty much have negative golf IQ. I don't know many players outside of Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson. And I spent the last 6 weeks since PGA came back trying to just go in how I should study the game. So I went back and looked at different first place lineups, what was unique about them. And the thing I learned over time was I first came in kind of very novice. I was like, I'm going to make a hard sand, play this kind of a very cash lineup. I'm okay making locks. I went in and like locked a few lineups to see how that went. I felt like I was donating back to DraftKings. And then last few weeks, I was like, all right, there's a lot more variance involved. How can I separate myself from other people? So when I was going through Alex's projections, his top golfers tool, and I was looking at mainly his top golfers tool, who is coming in at his top, and I was trying to narrow everything down. And I compared that to ownership projections, and I ended up making two really bold calls. And when I was making a line of construction, probably doesn't work out like this if you were to do this 99 times out of 100. So I went in and I faded Willard and Cantlay in this contest.
Bold.
So very bold, and I was like, okay, I'm okay doing that, and I knew this was going to be my last week of playing golf before NBA and MLB come back. And I used Alex's projections. I watched your guys' shows. I watched like your first look. I tune in and I read your guys' premium articles. So all the stuff, pretty much I was consolidated everything. It was like a holistic review of everything the site has to offer. And I went through it. I used Fantasy Cruncher with the projections and used some randomness into it. And I went through and narrowed out some lineups. And I uploaded and went to bed on Wednesday night. And I sweat the rest of the weekend. And that's how I really did it. I really did use the tools and looked at numbers. One thing I think I do well is I understand numbers really well and try to make differences in DFS. So a lot of different DFS skills I've learned in my 5 years of playing, I applied to this. It's not like I had no DFS experience. I know.
Yeah, let me ask you then.
Unique.
Yeah, let me ask you about your allocations, if you don't mind. Was Rahm and Schauffele kind of who you built around, or did you have a core four that you were 50% on? That's always one of the big questions is do you have a core four, or did you just you just basically use the Alex's projections and say, hey, Fantasy Cruncher, give me what you would give me if I just press click?
Correct. Yeah, I did not have a core four for this. I kind of let the projections do its thing and let Fantasy Cruncher do its thing. That's after I narrowed my player pool down.
Yep,
so,
that's the key. Yep.
I made sure to narrow down my player pool. The mistake that I was doing in the past, I was playing a lot of scrubs. And I think that's something that I like doing in NBA, and I was like, oh, it's kind of work in golf. It's a completely different beast.
Yep.
That's something that I learned in about the month. I was like, okay, it's good to play good golfers. The thing that I never understood about golf is like, how can one guy win the course one week and go to miss the cut next week? And like, that's something I had to understand that happens a lot more often than people realize. So there was no core four involved. I kind of let the projections do its thing, narrow down the lineups based off some ownership projections, and sat there and kind of sweated it out on Sunday. That's kind of the process that it took into. I know it sounds really bizarre, but
that's what it's all about, though, right? Having that unique process. All right, last question on Fantasy Cruncher. You mentioned randomness. You added in a little bit there. One of the main questions I get, and the other main question that Ben and I get a lot is the unique players. Did you change that, or did you say, you know what? No, just one unique. Give me a couple pyramids. Give me a couple trains. Or did you say, no, I want totally different lineups?
So yeah, I use different uniques. So I build lineups, like even seeing how lineups look with 4 uniques, 3 uniques, 2 uniques.
Yep.
And then I kind of converge them all together. It's not like I stick to one unique. I kind of want to see what is something extremely chalky look like versus something extremely contrarian, and seeing what the difference is. And that's what I kind of like. People, I think, term it massaging your lineups, massaging your crunch.
Yep.
That's how I like move my lineups around and kind of end up with my final set. So it's not, I think for uniques is something across other sports. I change this for slate to slate, depending on what the slate is presented to you. That's how I adapt to it. Some people have their own rules. I think I treat every slate differently in terms of like uniques. That's something it's different probably in my game.
Yep, totally got you. All right, last question, then I'm going to let you get out of here. And Ben and I are going to do a little bit of 3M stuff and, of course, talk about SuperDraft, what they got going on here. We're giving away some trivia. It has already started in the chat. So if you're not part of the chat, join in. We're giving away 15 tickets to the long drive contest, 3K to first this week over there on SuperDraft. And we'll get into them in a little bit. So last question. I added up your ownership, 74% total ownership for the lineup, right in that sweet spot Ben and I always talk about for GPPs. Did you add a rule into Fantasy Cruncher saying, I don't want above projected X number of ownership, or is this just how it worked out?
This is how it just worked out. But I think what you guys do makes sense in terms of getting that unique lineup build. That's really important to have that. I know Alex has talked about that. I know a lot of other successful DFS players have talked about that total ownership. But I think it's also like looking at the inverse ownership of people who don't have this lineup is also important. So I think keeping in mind ownership is really important. That's like how you separate yourself from the field to be unique and to come up on top.
Definitely. Well, Rinpack, as he's known by, Ryan, thanks so much for coming on and joining us.
I do have one final note.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Listeners. Since I use these tools, I mean, you guys definitely should. I mean, Awesemo subscription for me, I was a subscriber first. It's kind of been life-changing for me in terms of I've had some huge GPP wins. I really recommend you guys signing up for a promo code RESTART. You'll get access to pretty much all our site offering, WNBA, NBA, esports, PGA. It's going to be exciting. We start MLB tomorrow. Alex is putting a ton of work behind in the tools. They're truly world-class. And if you really study the tools, study your process, you really can take your game to the next level. So you heard from me first. I really think you guys should try out the promo code RESTART. I think you get everything for under $45 for a month. So give it a shot. Thank you guys and good luck this weekend.
Thank you, man. And congratulations again. It was a great lineup, a different sweat, as you said. And hopefully this time you're going to be sweating for the millie and you'll be in front of the TV to watch it. And hopefully it'll be the guy that you need winning it all, right?
That's when fantasy becomes a reality, right? So
that's it, man.
Commercials. There you go. Look at that.
All right, Ryan. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys real soon. And man, I tell you, we're going to do our best here to help our listeners get to that level. I mean, just a great lineup. Ben and I talk about lineup construction all the time on how to build lineups like that. A great little fantasy cruncher tutorial in there as well. Just how to change it, how to use the tools that they give you in massaging your lineups correctly and making sure that you're building the most optimal way. So really important. All right, let's move on to our waves, weathers, and withdraws. And we do have a couple of withdraws this week, but before we do, we want to thank SuperDraft. I just mentioned here before, we're running a trivia contest, giving away 15 tickets to that long drive. But if you haven't played over there, you got to check out their exclusive game mode multiplier. Right now, they are offering contests for PGA, NASCAR, MMA. They're coming up, of course, MLB tomorrow. So you can enjoy the best DFS of all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft using promo code Awesemo10. And you got $10 free on your first deposit of 10 or more and $20 free on the first deposit of 100 or more. So check it out in the App Store or at superdraft.io. No limits and more winning. All right, so withdraws. This week, Grayson Murray has contracted COVID-19, so he is out for the next couple of weeks. Joe Nemesis, Jason Kokrak, is deciding to save us some money this week. Brendan Todd, coming off of the terrible Sunday that tanked my lineup down the match, is also withdrawn. And Carlos Ortiz, who I felt like was going to be a good play, and I was going to fade him, so I'm kind of glad because I don't have to lose money there. What do you make of those withdrawals? Got a lot of motion in parts this week with all the withdrawals.
Yeah, there's some other guys down the way who weren't really relevant, Kevin Tway as well. But the big ones you mentioned, Kokrak was someone that I actually, theory, would have had interest here. I think this is a course, and we're going to get into it in a second, but you can really be aggressive off the tee as long as you keep it out of the drink. He can lean on the length, but no major overhauls. This isn't like when Webb and Brooks and guys like that pulled out. So all in all, not a ton of surprises, just a couple guys here and there that I did have to alter.
Yep, for sure. In terms of the weather, we can run through our three W's here. It looks like we're going to get pretty normal weather, maybe for my chilly, for my South Florida bones. It's a little chilly there on Thursday morning, 55 to 60 degree temperatures. That'll be fine for the guys that wear pants, so it's not like they're going to be cold. A little bit of wind coming in on Friday, but it looks like it's going to be there all day, so we really don't have to worry about it. That's nice to say. You seeing anything different there?
No, I think, the weather, when you looked at it Friday, it could be windy, but it seems like it's going to be windy all day potentially. So I'm not too concerned about it. Even last week, there was a lot of talk about it. And ultimately, I don't think it really matters. I'll go back to Rinpack's lineup. If you look at that lineup, that was no tee time stack or anything like that. It was just plays. You have so much time to make it up on the weekend. Here with the scoring abilities, placement points are not even going to be that correlated relative to what we saw last week. So I'm not worrying about weather. This is just a straight up build and see where we land. Yeah,
I totally understand. If you do want to try and play it, we'll give you some of the tee times going out in some of the waves. So we got the AM, PM going out tomorrow morning. Henrik Norlander, who is turning into my Jason Day of this year. He's going out first with Seamus Power and Scott Brown. Then we got two of our faves, Kyle Stanley and Emiliano Grillo. How much have we lost on just that twosome, let alone Roger Sloan thrown in there? They're going also out at 6:50. And then Bill Haas goes out at 7 a.m. Your day, you don't even have to wake up. You know your day is going to be done by the time you wake up.
Yeah, it's the beauty of it. Grillo, Sloan, and Stanley is kind of an interesting group. I have a feeling a lot of people will be floating them as, very aggressive first-round leaders. If you're looking for a bomb, that's a common strategy. I get it. And on this course, I think one of my biggest leaks, and I can get it right out at the beginning of the show, is not adjusting. It's no coincidence. Last week, I thought I was really prepared, and I just do better with hard courses. I seem to just correlate what I'm trying to do better. I have made a conscious effort to really adjust how I build for this course. Guys that maybe I don't think are as good of golfers, but they are just their ability to attack. And someone like Roger Sloan, I get it right off the bat. Yes, he's a complete dark horse, but he's that type of guy. He attacks all the time. He can score. Stanley and Grillo are a little different. They're more iron players, but this week you're going to see some really outrageous people up the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, it certainly has that capability. However, a winner could come from some of the big guns this week. We got them going out at 7:20. Brooks Koepka, Keith Mitchell, and Charles Howell. That's an interesting featured group there. But if you want to sweat, Keith Mitchell did make the cut last week, his first one in a while. And then Finau, DJ, and Fleetwood, the primary or premium group here this week. They go out at 7:30. And then the PMAM wave, if you're looking to just go against it, we got Matt Wolf, Max Homa, and Brandon Grace, along with Paul Casey, Bubba Watson, and Pat Perez. Yeah. Not really great afternoon groups in terms of watching ability for tomorrow afternoon. But Wolf does provide some entertainment, not going to lie. Let's talk about where they're going to be playing, though. TPC Twin Cities. We'll talk about that really quickly before we go into talking about Tommy Fleetwood and his return to the course. It's par 71, 7,500 yards. But, Ben, there's going to be a lot of drop twos, hitting threes from the penalty spots this week, aren't there?
Weird course in that regard. I think, we only saw 1 year, but clearly the guys are going to go low. That's not to say there won't be big numbers, though. There's water all over the place, and if you really are bad off the tee, you're going to make giant numbers. It kind of has a European feel because of that. Like I mentioned this in our premium chat. Juiced last week in Europe, he was rolling. He shot a massive underscore. He also made a 10 on a hole. And that's the kind of thing you see with a lot of water and a lot of variance. So I get it. I do think, though, if you keep it in the fairway here, you can just flag hunt and attack, and you're not going to be scrambling too much.
Yeah, I had the most birdies out of any course last year on the rotation of the PGA Tour. So definitely good point there. Easier to hit greens and fairways. 74% greens in regulation, one of the easiest. And the fairways were about 66%. So definitely on the easier side. And a lot of drivers, too. Keith Mitchell will be able to bomb it out there. So let's talk about Tommy Fleetwood now. I got to be honest. I'm pretty excited. He was in that little 9-hole scramble today. I tried to catch in some of it just to see if Tommy Fleetwood had been swinging a club. But we actually got a tweet from him yesterday, or from his caddy it was, that he was quarantined the last 2 weeks because he came over from Europe, had to be quarantined for a couple of weeks out near you, actually, in Long Island, playing National Golf Links, playing Shinnecock, and some really tough courses. What do you make of Tommy Fleetwood's first time back in 4 months? What do you expect, and are you playing him?
So I do have some exposure. I think I'm going to come in because people love Tommy Fleetwood right around the field. And obviously, this is a common question this week is, are you worried about the layoff? Yeah, I'm worried. I mean, we haven't seen the guy in months. It's not to say he's suddenly not a world-class player. He is. But I wish I saw, I don't care what anyone says, there will be some rust, and he would have benefited if he played earlier. It's not to say he can't come out and look good and be effective. There is just an added layer of risk coming in that cold.
Yeah, I think for me, we've seen this a couple of times, right? Because we've been doing this for 6 weeks. We saw Matsuyama come back a couple of weeks after the restart, missed the cut. We saw Ty Hatton do the same thing and come right back and go top 5. The difference here, though, is Matsuyama was, I think, even 10K or at least in the 9s. Ty Hatton was low 8s. So if you're investing in Tommy Fleetwood this week, which I am, you have to know that at 10-5, it could ruin your week if he ends up coming out cold, exactly like you said, because he's 10,500. You're committing a ton of salary, obviously, there. And your other 5 guys clearly are not going to be studs because you just can't do that in this field. You can't really – you can go stars and scrubs hunting, and we'll attempt to do that, but it's harder to do in these types of fields, certainly. So a couple of other guys up at the top, DJ and Paul Casey coming off missed cuts, but they're actually typically very good after missed cuts. Probably why we see the ownership 20+% on both of them projected over here at Awesemo. What are you doing with the chalky DJ and Casey this week?
So I actually went to them. I paired them in some lineups to get leverage. I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. How I did the remaining 4 is very difficult, not going to lie, and we'll get into those cheapies later in the show. But listen, DJ, he's won 3 times off a missed cut, and he doesn't miss that many cuts. So clearly this is a guy that can turn it around. He didn't have it at Memorial. He said as much in his press conference. I don't worry about that. Now, Paul Casey, here we go, because I don't golf. And I've said this 50 times already. I've never seen someone clear a water hazard the wrong way. It was 1 hole. He made a quintuple bogey, and he missed the cut on the number. Yeah, it was extremely tilting, but I think his game is in pretty good shape.
It seems like it is. I mean, all the statistical numbers, if you take out that 1 hole, all the statistical numbers looked fine. He actually even had an 11-footer to make the cut after the 8 or quintuple bogey that he made. Honestly, it must have been a plugged lie in the bunker. And from the plugged lie, or fried egg, as they call it, he must have been trying to just pitch out sideways. And from pitching out sideways, he caught way more of the ball and actually cleared the water hazard, which was actually the downfall. If he had actually hit that ball in the water, he could have dropped it on the green side, chipped it up, and made his 5. Instead, he cleared the water and then had to come back over it and dumped it in twice.
Yeah, twice.
It's crazy. Obviously, awful.
Twice.
Now, I'm going right back to him because, as I said, after a missed cut, he's looked really good. He's actually won after a missed cut at the Valspar. He missed the Players' Championship, went right down to Tampa over by me and won it right after the missed cut. I believe it was last year, right? If I'm not mistaken, in 2019. Yes, it was. A couple of other top 5s as well. So I'm totally fine going right back to him at 10,000. We know it's an iron heavy course. No problem going right back there. I want to ask you a question about Tony Finau, though. We don't normally get into like the whole golfing mechanics, but he did fire his long-term caddy, like the only caddy he's had since being on tour. We've seen some of these other big-name players go through caddy switches, Jason Day, Rory McIlroy, and they end up being fine. What do you make of it? I mean, it's kind of interesting. Tony Finau is kind of your below-the-radar, always happy-go-lucky guy. Kind of seems interesting to see the part of ways, especially right before a big stretch of golf.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I never really take notice of. I saw it today, and I was surprised. Seemed kind of, again, from my limited vantage point, it seemed abrupt. It seemed just a little out of character, I guess. But who knows? I don't read too much into it. Obviously, I can't quantify it. You can look at Tony Finau 2 ways. He had another chance last week. He putted really well. He kind of blew up on a very difficult Sunday. So you can take that and say he's obviously playing pretty good, or you can say that takes something out of you when you have a chance. And I mean, that was another disappointing Sunday for him.
I wonder if the caddy thing had something to do with something that happened on Sunday that was just either a bad number, bad advice, something that Finau obviously wasn't able to recover from. Nick in our chat here, though, thinks that you should be Tony Finau's caddy. So I don't know if you're looking for that extra work.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I would have to hire
read greens, to be honest with you.
You think I want to carry? I would have to hire someone to carry the bag. You think I'm going to lug that thing around? Not happening. But
yeah, kind of heavy there. All right, we'll talk about Brooks here to finish up the top end. There was a 2-minute video from the Golf Central last week. I put it in one of my articles this week. Basically, it said Brooks is not playing at 100%. He admits he's not playing at 100%. And when his season is done, meaning when he gets knocked out of the playoffs, he's going in for another stem cell treatment the next day. So that's going to keep him sidelined, which means possibly even through the U.S. Open. So clearly he's playing injured. And I put out a tweet this morning that basically put out some bad analogies. I'm terrible at analogies, but I tried my best. It was like, hey, if Harden had a bad left hand, would you play him? If Patrick Mahomes broke 3 fingers, would you play him in his right hand? And basically, I said, if your answer is no to any of these, don't play Brooks Koepka this week, because I do feel like he's playing injured. And at 11,200, I'm just not interested in playing an injured guy. Even if he's going to beat me, I don't mind at 8% and 11,200.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of the risk is baked into the ownership. So he naturally, you're not you don't have to allocate a ton if you do want to play him. You can get around the field, get a little over, and he's not going to derail you. I look at it, it's a tough situation because I agree with everything you're saying, but I'll say this. Brooks is obviously, he's got bigger things to do than the 3M Open, yet he's here.
His brother's here, though.
Yeah.
I say that, yeah.
No, that's a fair point, too.
I know, we know he tries to help his brother. We know that, right? From partnering with him at that, partner event down in New Orleans. I just wonder if that has something to do with it. Like, hey, you come and we'll give your brother a spot type of thing.
That's very. I don't know if he's trying to work through some things on the course. He scored really well last week. He just made a lot of mistakes. He's still he's a top end golfer. Do I feel more comfortable with DJ or Casey? Absolutely, but so does everybody else.
That's very true. All right, so let's move on to our mid price and missed cuts segment here. Got a couple of guys coming off of missed cuts in this next pricing section: Brian Harmer, Max Homa, and Doc Redman. Then we got a couple of mid prices, maybe missed price though. Lucas Glover, Russell Henley, Harris English, all above 9K. I just mentioned 6 golfers there. Why don't you attack a couple of them for me?
Yeah, so this is where this tournament, it's like sticker shock right off the bat. You see these guys and you're just used to having them in the mid 7s. And when you look at SuperDraft, you're used to having them 1.3, 1.4x.
Yep.
So I'm a little hesitant as I just got bigger. But other than that, I'm going to Henley and Glover. I don't mind attacking them. If you want to go balanced, you can do that. A lot of different options. And that's what we have to deal with the 3M. There's no other way around it.
That's for sure. One thing I found with Harris English, believe it or not, he's actually quite a consistent good putter. Gaining strokes on the field, I think it's something like one of the most amount of times in the field that he's gained strokes, just gained strokes putting, not a lot, quarter of a stroke was the number that I was looking at. He just does it at a higher clip than most other people, which is very interesting there. A couple of other guys here. Henrik Norlander is playing very much similar to what we went through with Jason Kokrak last year. Based on some of the tweets that you read, I believe you're taking the fade of him in the past. Are you continuing that fade this week and saying, you know what, Norlander, your 6th place last week at the Memorial is going to be the height of your career at this point?
Yeah, that's more what I'm going for. He gained 8 strokes putting. He's playing great. Listen, I understand it. For me, I'd go to Doc Redman. I just trust him a little more. I'm not exactly sure why Norlander has suddenly found something. Maybe he did, and it can continue. But for me, the way I'm going, I'll let other people continue to chase that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Got to be honest. I guess I might be sitting a little too close to the camera today. I apologize.
No, it's not you. It's my camera. It's lawless weather here. What can I say, chat? It's they got me mega zoomed, so it's very shady business.
Yeah. I apologize if my face is kind of in your face tonight. But in any case, we'll talk about Patrick Rodgers. What perfect time to bring up Patrick Rodgers, who only really gets it done with the putter, but he continues to do so. And Luke List, very volatile. Speaking of volatile and volatility, why don't you talk to me about Patrick Rodgers and Luke List for a minute? You can throw in Sam Burns there too. I think is overpriced this week.
Yeah, so they're the guys I think that if you want leverage in the 8K range, you're going to have to look to. Patrick Rodgers does it with the putter, which is very odd. Luke List was great all around last week. It's kind of interesting. I get that. I think more people are going to try to pay up for the Redmans, the Norlanders, even the Burns of the world. So that's interesting for me personally. I either went up to Redman or I went all the way down to Ryan Moore, Max Homa, even a little Brian Harman.
Yeah, Max Homa, Brian Harman, to me, we've seen these guys not even close to 8K, and here they are coming in at it. Maybe neither of them in good form either. Now, Homa's been a little bit closer the last 2 weeks than Harman has, but for the most part, I'm kind of skipping out on these guys. However, I don't think they're a bad play on SuperDraft, as we can move into our 5th topic here, and we'll review kind of the guys that we just talked about on SuperDraft. One of the guys that definitely caught my eye was Brian Harman at 1.3x. I think that, if we're worried about him really not coming in the top 20, even a field like this, I think that 1.3x multiplier kind of sets him apart a little bit on SuperDraft. Who are your top end plays over there this week?
Yeah, obviously we can start with DJ. I'm not breaking any news there. He's 1x. He should be. He's the best player in the field. But as you work down, I think the kind of guys you just alluded to in that 1.3 and that 1.25 X, you can find some pretty good golfers there. Matthew Wolff is 1.2x.
Yep.
I'm not super high on him overall, but I think particularly with 1.2 X, that's a pretty good multiplier for a guy that we know the upside. He's the defending champ, and he can score like a banshee. So I think that's where I would start.
How about Sam Burns? We just mentioned he is like 8,500 on DraftKings this week. One of probably his most expensive, but on SuperDraft, 1.35x multiplier. You know, you got guys like Chase Seifert and Wes Roach at 1.2. So 1.35x on Sam Burns seems like a really good place to go as well.
Yeah, and again, we always preach on this show, you want to price shop. Sam Burns is the min on Yahoo. Across the industry, a lot of it is different, and that's why SuperDraft with the multiplier mode, you can get some guys there that you just wouldn't be able to correlate in a lineup with a salary cap. So if you're looking for some creative builds and you can't make it work on say, DK, head to SuperDraft and you can pick anyone you want. That's the beauty of it.
It sure is. It sure is. So if you're interested in, of course, more information about this type of stuff and some of our plays, a perfect time to go check out our Twitter handle, Awesemo_com, where we are giving away a free Awesemo monthly pass. It gives you access to all of Awesemo's leading DFS projections tools and premium content for 31 days. All you got to do is like the tweet and subscribe to Awesemo on the Apple Podcast and leave a 5-star review with your Awesemo username or Twitter handle, and you will be entered to win there. So check that out as we move into our favorite segment on the show, called Make the Cut. And what we're doing here is we're just trying to find guys that we believe are going to make the cut that are priced below 8,000. Going to give, of course, a little talking about it. And of course, if you have any questions, chat, feel free. This is a perfect time to throw them out there. I ask Ben a couple and then I go back to the chat and check it out. So if you've got any plays beyond here, this is a perfect time to throw it out there. So let's start off with Johnny Vegas and Will Gordon, since I just saw it. And then, looks like Bo Jones from our chat has a question at the end. Looks like a 3v3, but I'll ask you that one at the end.
So I think Vegas is pretty interesting. He can be aggressive off the tee. He's got plenty of length, can score. We see when he gets going, no problem. I'll leave Will Gordon for you. You discovered him. You know what's going on with that guy. I have no pulse on him. I didn't get there.
Okay. Here's what I know about Gordon. Is that the PGA Tour thinks that he could definitely possibly be some type of star because they threw him up there with the three best players or three of the better players in the field this week in this little drive for scramble thing that they did today. I can tell you that he hits the ball definitely as far as Wolff, if not further, and Tommy Fleetwood and Paul Casey were both very impressed with that. His iron game didn't look great. His iron game is not the strong suit. He's a driver and a putter, kind of similar to Wyndham Clark, but I believe he's got more upside than Wyndham Clark. I believe he's probably a little bit more polished with his irons. You've chronicled Wyndham Clark almost perfectly. The guy literally never gains with his irons. I don't think we're going to see that with Will Gordon, but I think it's a similar type player that has that high upside, but very volatile. And that's what I said in my premium article this week. The title of it is Playing Potential and Adding Variance. Will Gordon is that exact play for me. I believe his potential is in this field is a top 10 potential of golfers long term in it. But until he gets his footing on the PGA Tour, I believe his results will be variable. And I have to understand playing that this week. And that's what I'd recommend playing everybody. Do I think he gets to the cut? Yeah, I think there's enough par fives here and enough opportunities for him to use that asset of driving it long to get through the cut and hopefully make some noise over the weekend. Chris Kirk and Siwoo Kim, both of them have had an up and down restart, but Kirk's got a win. Siwoo Kim's got a couple of cups in a row. Do they make the weekend?
I'm not high on either of them. It's a range that was pretty dead for me. RCB is sitting there. I got to him a little bit, but mostly I went up to Ryan Moore, which I already said. So I'm not there. I think they could sneak through potentially, but I don't think I get burned by having little to none of both of them.
Okay. Fair enough. This is the Will Gordon with one good event. But see, that's the thing is a lot of people don't remember that it's not just one good event. Yes, he got his tour status through Hartford, but he's actually got a top 20 at the Farmers, which is a very strong field, a top 20 at the Puerto Rico Open, which this is basically what that is. along with another top 10 at the RSM Classic, which is basically what this is. So he's got 4 good starts under his belt, a couple of miscuts in there as well. So don't get me wrong, there is the added variability in there. Rafa Cabrera-Bello, I mean, in a field like this, we'd be jumping to play at this guy, but he has just not found it since he's been back. Does him or I'm going to skip that guy, Scott Stallings, because I think this next guy we're both going to say is going to make it.
So I like Scott Stallings quite a bit. He's made every cut post-break, just playing pretty well. He can score. I think this is a good event to target him. He's kind of got that profile that I was alluding to at the beginning. I don't think he's the best golfer out there per se, but he's built for these type of events. RCB, on the other hand, is more, if I had to rank overall talent of this field, he would be, higher than most people would think. He's just not playing great. So although I do have some, there is some risk there that the form is really not what I want to say.
Dylan Fratelli.
You know me with South Africans. I don't know. He's so wild in the sense that his stats rarely line up. Strikes it well, can't putt. Putts well, can't strike it. When it connects, we saw him win. Do I think he could do that? I think, yeah, he's always live to make a big splash. Don't know how you trust it. He's in the COVID group, I believe, still. Is he one of those who had to play by himself last week?
Yeah, I think he's still under it right now. He might be coming out of it, though, or maybe he was out of it. If you were on the fence, I'm going to try and convince you right now.
All right, please.
Last year, he was 5th in the field in strokes gained tee to green. At this event, he gained over 2 strokes tee to green, and it was through the board, not just around the green. And the week before, he gained over a stroke and a quarter around the green, but lost on his approaches. Last week, we saw him do very well around the green, but struggle with his approaches a little bit. I still think he gained. So what I'm saying is maybe it's a lead-in when his around the green game is in good form, when he feels confident with it, it reverberates through to his iron saying that, hey, if I miss it, I'm fine. I'll get up and down for par. Maybe I'm making this up, or maybe I'm trying to convince myself to play him. But I like the upside here, and I think at 7,600 in this field, he is one of the better players when he's on, and I think he's coming into form. Okay, let's move on to our next guy here. Sorry, I'm pulling my notes back up. Okay, got a couple from the chat. Chesson Hadley, Stuart Sink, Seamus Power. 3 names there I got from the chat, and then we'll work into some other names I got.
So 2 of those, even though I'm a Seamus guy, he showed a little form, then he missed a cut on the Corn Ferry Tour. I'm not on Sink. Chesson Hadley is an obvious target, I think, under 7K. Big multiplier over on SuperDraft you can go to. He's just a good ball striker. You're not going to get punished by scrambling here. You got to avoid the water like everyone else, but he makes sense as a last man in, as a, one of your last men in very aggressive builds.
Chesson Hadley, I think with the water, maybe people are a bit nervous about. I think he's played okay. Yeah, Seamus Power, really weird, right? He comes in top 6 at the Rocket Mortgage and then goes and misses the cut, like you said, on the Corn Ferry. However, I believe that there's a lot of correlation between the Rocket Mortgage and this event. Just in the field strength and the way the course is set up. We saw Matt Wolf's 2 best finishes come here, the win, and then a couple of weeks ago at the Rocket Mortgage. Again, we don't know too much because each of those events were in their inaugural year, the first year, and now they're in their second year. Maybe there's no correlation, but I'm kind of playing for that. So I guess in the sense of Seamus Power, if that's the case, he'll be in a couple lineups this week. I do think he makes it back through the cut. Maybe it's just one of those things where, he knows that top 10 at the Rocket Mortgage, will get him a couple status and maybe he just didn't want to play. I have no idea, but I do think he'll make the weekend. Chesson Hadley, coin flip. I think you're going to need a 15-footer from him to make the cut on Friday. So get ready on that one. How about Keith Mitchell? We saw him top 20 last week, finally find form with the putter, but the ball striking's still not quite there. Does he find the ball striking this week? Yeah,
so Keith Mitchell's interesting. I've had a couple people ask me about him. Again, this is one of those great debates. You can look at it and say, okay, if he can keep the putter and his best club, which is off the tee, goes back to where it should be, now we're talking. If you say if he loses the putting and the ball striking doesn't return, he's going to be even worse and he's completely dead. It's kind of just which avenue you want to take. He needs to be better off the tee. That's the strength of his game. If he does that, I think he could be okay. But I do worry that he hasn't been driving it nearly as well as he should be.
No, finally he made off the tee last week. It was his first time though in a couple of starts, which just blows my mind for a guy that drives the ball so well.
Yep.
So a little concerning there. How about Sam Ryder? A lot of people that chat with me throughout the week that send me lineup ideas for their lineups. Sam Ryder's been in a lot of them, so I must think that people think he's going to make the cut. Do you?
I think he's going to be okay. I do have some exposure. I have more Wiesberger at that range. He's the 20. I know. Listen. He's a really polarizing guy this week because he wasn't good last week. He's a Euro guy. He's 29th in the world, though. That's got to count for something. I'm not just saying it's a blind play, but I went to him. I did go to like the Aaron Wise a little bit. Griot was there in that range when you need a real cheapie in the low sevens. So a lot of names ahead of Sam Ryder for me.
So let's talk about Brandon Grace, who FanDuel for the second straight time.
What is that?
Has priced him at the min price, and last time I don't think he withdrew. But what's going on with Brandon Grace? It looks like his approaches were decent last week, even though he missed the cut. Does he get through to the weekend this time?
I don't really have a strong take on him. I think obviously on FanDuel you have to consider it. He's someone that he gets. I don't know if it's a over label of just like. You remember him, I believe it was Chambers Bay, U.S. Open. He thrives in like brutal conditions.
Yep. I
don't think that's necessarily all he can do, but at the same time, I wasn't necessarily drawn to him. There were other guys, other flyers that I liked.
Cam Tringale making the cut?
No, another one that, again, for me, just give me Wiesberger, give me other guys with higher ceilings.
Tom Lewis just placed the top 12 at the Rocket Mortgage. Maybe, like I said, if we're talking about the crossover between the two courses. I like Tom Lewis. We know he's got upside, but it was his best PGA Tour, specifically PGA Tour event finish ever. Do we think he builds on that this week and makes the cut? Maybe gets inside of the top 11 this week.
I said the same thing I did before whatever tournament that was, that although I don't think that Tom Lewis is even a favorite to make the cut, that doesn't mean he shouldn't or couldn't be in your player pool, because he has... Every time he goes out, he is live to go nuclear damage. And we see flashes of that. He won a Corn Ferry event out of nowhere. He's incredibly boom bust. For me, there were other boom bust guys that I think the floor was just a little better and he got squeezed. But you can never fault someone in a milli maker, drive the green type setting for taking a guy like that.
Totally agree. When we've seen the upside in these golfers, you got to target them in GPPs. If there was a golfer, I've got a couple of more in here, like Richie Werenski, Charlie Hoffman. I'll let you talk about them. But is there a golfer you're trusting for one of your biggest lineups in this range? I know I heard you mention a couple of names. Any of the guys that stand out, and is Richie Werenski or Charlie Hoffman either of those?
Richie Werenski is a guy that I actually really need this week. He's made every cut post break. He struck it fantastic with the irons. The putter is hit and miss, but he does like bent grass. He likes easy courses. So all the splits kind of line up for me. He's fairly priced, not going to be overly popular. Really, there was limited red flags in a field where everyone has red flags. So I used him to round out a lot of lineups, and I really could use him just getting through this cut.
I think he does. I think his irons have been good enough where he's coming into good form. So I do believe Werenski gets through. How about Shank or Seifert? Seifert was your boy. I think you cashed in on him. I mean, I know you bet him, and then you probably bet him again, maybe not as much as you did the first week, but I think you cashed in on it a little bit, right? And does he give it to you again this week? He
finally popped for he had that great week. He was hitting it in the water and still making birdie, just outrageous.
Yeah, it's just what it does. Yeah.
Easy game. I like Adam Shank a lot more. We mentioned Hadley. Those are guys that I just don't think they're at the premium by any stretch. Seifert is at sky high stock wise. Everyone is looking and they say, oh, that's the guy who just did that. Whereas someone like Adam Shank is a pure scorer. We've seen it a little more. I went to him more often than not when I was poised with that decision.
Yeah, Wiesberger just obviously has that pedigree, so it's hard to come over in that range. I totally understand. Yeah. How about Christopher Ventura, whose strokes gained numbers are a little crazy? He's only had 11 starts, but in 6 of them, he's gained 2 or more total strokes. He's gotten hot with the putter. He seems like a pretty good lineup here.
So this is the dude I thought I was going to be. I thought, Chad, I got the dark horse for you. Christoph Ventura, 6,200 or something like that. Yeah. He's in the sevens and he's somewhat viable. Like, I get it. He can lean on his off the tee. I'm just stunned at everything about this. I thought this was like a true 1%er, and it's not.
Tom Hoagie has kind of fallen off the earth a little bit since the comeback. He's priced at $7K this week. Our buddy in the chat thinks he's the play of the week. Does the play of the week get through the cut? Jack in our chat asking.
I'd probably rather play. Jack is a damn good golfer. I'd probably rather roster him than Tom Hoagie at this point. So,
there you go, Jack.
Yeah, there you go. Not for me. Listen, another guy who I do like this where scrambling is not as important, but I still would rather take some guys that I think kind of blanket that. They just have additional ceilings where he doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Jack likes your answer there. All right, let's move on to our deep dives, hot takes, and more. Of course, if you have more questions, keep on throwing them at me in chat. I will likely try and get to them. This is still a section where we can talk about that stuff. But before we do, this is a really good question here from GS Loop DFS in our chat that I thought I'd bring up with you, more on lineup building than it is on specific players. So he wants thoughts on limiting max salary when building this week. Feels like with the lack of talent in that 8K range, it might be a week to do that. Maybe not necessarily need to spend all 50K. What do you think about that throughout the contest? Is there one contest like the Millionaire Maker where you'd say, yeah, no problem doing that? Or are you okay doing that throughout your lineups this week?
Oh, you can definitely do it. It's just a fine line of, you want to make sure you're not doing it just to do it. Like if you have a lineup and you have guys that are going to be 1 or 2% owned, or you have a weird you don't need to worry about that. But if that leaving salary on the table is a way to create leverage. And if you have a lineup that you say, man, I love all 6 of these guys, but it leaves 600 on the table, I can't do that. No, you absolutely can. Just make sure there's a reason. And then there's a fine line. If it's like I could play Roger Sloan or I could get up to DJ, well, now we're getting a little dangerous. Like, let's not leave 5K on the table. That's obviously not the way to do it.
Yeah, it's 5K is probably a little much. I mean, I like Doc Redman a lot this week, though. So Same. I think that probably took it away because let's say we went exactly kind of like you said, DJ and Casey or something of that range. You could still fit into Doc Redman and then go to these prices and basically use up all the salary there. So I guess to answer his question, I didn't do it as much as you would think, only because I liked Doc Redman in that range. I liked Matthew Wolff to be able to go up with those guys. So I didn't necessarily need to do it. But if I liked the lineup and saw it, there's no doubt about it, I would put it in there. So, yeah, if Jack is we got to get Jack in on our DFS Open team next year then, Ben, if he's that good. We might have a chance.
Yeah, he would be quite useful. He would balance out what we know is me not being even remotely useful.
I mean, hey, listen, you are good at reading the putts from what I was seeing. I mean, I saw a couple and, you got a good swing.
I'm good
on both sides of the plate.
I gamble it, man. I don't play it, but I did enjoy it. I love golf now. I want to play a lot more. Never played it growing up. Team sports only, but
hey man, it's still fun to get into whenever you can, and it can be a team sport at times. So, okay, I have a question here from Jared. I believe I'm saying that correctly. Do I base any of my picks on Korn Ferry performances? Really good question, and this can go right into one of my deep dives and hot takes here. So Derek Ernst is coming in off of 3 straight top 20s on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's a PGA Tour player playing out of the 126 to 150 category or 150 to 200. One of those very hard categories to actually get starts in. Obviously playing good golf. How do I measure that? Well, I can tell you that I'd rather pick him over Bo Hostler, who hasn't made a cut since who knows when. Mm-hmm. So I value them to a point where I believe they can come on if they're playing good golf. They can likely compete on any tour as long as they're on the Korn Ferry Tour. Even the Mackenzie Tour. Will Gordon was on there last year competing. So I do value them in a sense when I'm looking and saying, all right, do I want to play Derek Ernst or Bo Hostler? If I'm dropping down at this price, I pick Derek Ernst every single time. How are you handling that, though? Because we saw Luke List win right out of the gate on the Korn Ferry, top 10 last week. So there's definitely something to say about their overall form, regardless of the tour they're playing on.
Yeah, so this is a week where normally I wouldn't care what a guy's doing because I'm like, if he's playing on the Korn Ferry Tour, he's, and he's playing against in the Memorial, like with the major level field, I'm not worried about it. Here, I think we need to consider it. And you mentioned the class drop. Chris Kirk did that. Luke List did that. Went down there and won, came back and can be somewhat effective. I don't mind it. I think you want to be a little careful. This is still a step up from the Korn Ferry, but it's not that big a step up. So if you see a guy in a groove, I do think it's worth considering more now than basically ever. And that's not something I normally do.
Yeah, I also think they should switch that Battlefield promotion, the hardest promotion to get in professional sports, from 3 wins to 2 wins. This guy, Davis Riley, on the Korn Ferry Tour, he is playing really good every single week. And I feel like this guy should be up competing against the big boys, but that's kind of another, not here nor there, but just wanted to bring that up quickly. I got some names. I got one of the names, and the chat has already brought it up because our chat, they just know, they know. Agnes Flanagan. What do you got for me, Ben?
Nothing. I have absolutely. I. You know what I have? Hold on. I'll show you what I have. I got a nice. Here you go, Chad. Look at this nice cup. Flanagan's. Great restaurant. Great ribs down in Florida. That's all I got. He's from Minnesota. He's a Golden Gopher. I learned. I don't play people like that.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and this is Ben and I talk about this a lot. Is sometimes when you find these guys and you find them early, they can pay off. We'll talk about him really quickly. He's a third-team All-American, so he's not a Will Gordon. He's not a Doc Redman. He doesn't have the accolades that those guys does. He's a junior at Minnesota. He's played the course. He holds the course record of 64. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of interest there, but it's his first PGA Tour tournament, and he doesn't really have tremendous accolades. When I play some of these guys, Colin Morikawa had a scoring average of 69.3 in college. Yes, he's ready to play professional golf. Matt Wolff, Victor Hovland, he's not in this class, so I'm going to pass. A guy that I thought was in this class, hopefully doesn't take a Norman Jong approach here, but Satish Theegala has at least one on the minor league tours. Norman Jong can't even get through the cut. So does Theegala finally interest you? I looked at his stats, and he's gained everywhere in his 2 starts, but he hasn't put it all together, and around the green actually looks kind of a mess, so I take that back. The other 3 categories, he's looked okay. Around the green looks like a mess.
This is obviously, for a lot of reasons, probably the best spot he's seen so far. It's a little weaker field. He's had some, abilities now. He's played a handful of holes on tour. I'm still not I'm not jumping to play Theegala by any stretch, but I think we're trending towards, if you still believe that he's a guy, I'm going to use Norman John, not to pick on him, but obviously he struggled and he just continued to struggle. But if you think this guy's taking a couple of missed cuts and then he's going to settle right in and he's going to be more in the Scotty Scheffler, of guys that start really piecing it together in various degrees of success, I think you don't want to abandon ship just yet.
Yeah, and again, it's not like a core play. It's not going to be in 20% of my lineups. But if I'm going to lose money on this guy, which I lost money on Norman Jong, so I might as well lose it on him as well, this is the field that I want to do it in. If he can't beat this field, then he won't beat any other one. So it'll be the last time I play him, and it'll probably be the first time I play him as well. I didn't play him before in anything important, so I'm going to give him a little bit of look this week. I'm not going to lie to you here. He's not part of my hot takes, though. You have to go first on the hot takes because you nailed it last week. You had the Spaniards taking it down, and Johnny Rahm did not let you down. You cashed in on it nicely on the betting side. So you've got to go 2 for 2 here. What do we got?
Well, what I'm going to say, I just want to repeat something that happened earlier in the show. Greenback was dropping knowledge, and I just want to say, promo code RESTART. Once again, baseball starts tomorrow. Basketball's coming back. We've got golf. We've got everything else. You're going to get Awesemo Plus half off for an entire month with the promo code RESTART. So it's only $45 for a month of Awesemo projections, the tools, all the content behind the paywall. I say this every time. Come check it out for half off for a month. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But there's no better time to get in there. Literally, baseball starts tomorrow, and the guys are preparing. They're ready to go. Shows all day. Look at your incline. Right on the screen. Boom.
Boom. There it is.
We can't zoom my camera back out. I'm running amok, but we can get the promos on the screen, and that's what we do around here.
And I mean, what better time, though? This is going to be the first time I was listening to I don't know, ESPN the other day, I think it was. I'll give my shout out to Disney there since I'm not wearing a shirt today. They were saying that this is going to be the first time in the history that like all of the professional sports are going on at the exact same time. When football comes back in a month, we'll have NBA, MLB, NFL. And they were saying that they actually didn't think it would take away from the individual sports. They thought that it would actually increase the ratings on all of them because there's so many options for people to choose from. So we'll hope that that happens, of course. For golf, the ratings have been fantastic since the start. So hot takes. Let's hear it. I want to say Thigala is going to be mine, but I'm going to let you go first so that I'm going to calm down and find another one that's a little bit better.
I'm going to go, this is not a hot take. This is not my hot take. I do think this is the first week, though. We've seen 6 winners that have all been very reasonable. You could say world-class players for all 6. I wouldn't be stunned to see someone really come out of the blue. That's not my hot take, but I will say that. So keep that in mind. I think this is a lot more wide open. I'm going to bring up a guy that we haven't brought up on the show yet. I'm going to give him a top 20, maybe I'll even push a top 10. I think that Hudson Swafford for an aggressive bomber stack. He's someone that he's shown he can score. He goes out very early tomorrow. This is a guy that I'm recommending. I'm telling you, small percentage you'll get over the field, but he has some upside. Again, if he can keep it in play off the tee, he's popped. He's certainly not in the best form he's ever been in. He was a really good player a couple years ago. I could see him flashing something here and sub 7K, huge multiplier over on SuperDraft. I have a little interest in him making some noise this week.
It's a great call over on SuperDraft, and we end our show with a couple of our long picks from that multiplier segment. Good one there. Okay, I've got one. Dylan Fratelli, top 10. I really think this course sets up really well for him. If he had putted well last year, he would have easily done that, and I think he's coming in on pretty good form. He had that couple week break too in the middle of his return because of that COVID positive test. But it looked like he, doesn't seem to be affecting me anymore. So I got Dylan Fratelli in the top 10. Okay, a couple more from chat. I guess we didn't go over Bubba Watson. Maybe that's a mistake on our part, or maybe that's just because neither of us are playing him. But I think I saw him in one of your betting articles, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I am using him in DFS. I will clarify. I think he's a much better bet. I like him. I put it out, I have a tweet going. I picked him to win this tournament. I think he's very live to do some damage. He struck it great last week. He's still very pricey. He's almost 10K. I found the $200 to Casey in a lot of spots, but I did put him on the betting card and I am using him. So I don't mind that. I'll jump though. I know we're talking SuperDraft right now. Yeah. I'm just going to get this right out of the way. Russell Henley is 1.4x.
Yeah, what's going on there?
That's a huge multiplier for a guy that is in the he's next to JJ. Just to give you some context, he's next to Hudson Swafford, Tyler McCumber, and JJ Spawn over on SuperDraft. Think about where those guys are priced on the salary sites.
Yeah, it's not even close. A couple more on SuperDraft, as you guys see on our screen here. Chesson Hadley, who's been brought up quite a bit, 1.5x. And then Thigala, who I mentioned, if you want to play him, but you don't want to play him on DraftKings or anything important, on an important big lineup, 1.6x on SuperDraft. That is a great place to start. Only a $15 buy-in, so it's not like you're allocating too much capital there. I think he's a really good play there. If you want to get exposure, I think it's a good way to do it. Couple more chats, a couple more questions from chat here. Did we talk about Charlie? I did ask you about Charlie Hoffman, and I think both you and I we're okay. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm indifferent.
I don't think I'm going to play him. I'll be definitely under the field. I think he's projected to be like somewhere in the 10 or 12% range. Did we have our buddy Coolers give us some from the chat? It looks like we did. Our GPP plays. Let's see if I can go pull them up here.
Cooler slacking on the job here.
Yeah, I thought I saw something earlier. But while I searched for it, Bubba Watson in cash, I just had a question about that.
I mean, cash is very difficult this week because the tournament is so bad. I think it's going to be a lot of 2v2s in a lot of ways. I think Casey is the obvious starting point in cash.
Me too. Yep. I think
that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, even though he missed the cut last week, obviously. As we
by making an 8 on a par 3, and I'm saying he's the obvious starting point. That's where we're at, chat. Yeah. Times are tough.
Pat Perez.
Interesting name, I think, and I do this with certain guys, Phil in particular. I may use him in Showdown. I don't mind that. I just don't love it for a full tournament event right now.
Okay, so
Bo, what is that 3v3? Post that back in chat. I forgot about that, and chat gets out of control.
Put that back to us if you don't mind. I copied it, but it looks like I deleted it by accident. We'll talk about Alex Noren and Matthias Schwab, two players that we've talked about in the past, while we wait for that 3v3 to be posted. So Matthias Schwab and Alex Noren.
Noren is someone that I'm going to stick to my guns for the most part here. He is not someone that attacks pin. Like I used to play him in events like this, and then it's like, oh, the cut's 6 under and Noren is 2 under because Noren's always 2 under, whether it's like the US Open or this. He's not the type of guy for this type of course, in my opinion. Didn't go there. Matthias Schwab, I think everyone knows at this point, I like his game. He's a good ball striker. He's getting better with the putter. Mm-hmm. He's a Vanderbilt kid, even though he's Austrian. I'm still playing a little. I don't think you need to go crazy, but he is in the player pool.
So here's what I want to say about Schwab is he's a really solid player, and it sucks that he had to come back to a U.S. Open type conditions for his first competitive event. That's why I'm basically throwing it out. I mean, he actually played okay on Thursday. I think he shot only 2 over, and then the blow up on Friday happened. But I do like Schwab a little bit this week, especially at this price. All right, I got the 3v3. DJ Henley and Norlander, or Seamus Powers, EVR, Erica Van Rooyen, who actually we didn't talk about, and Paul Casey. It's a good one.
Wait, I mean, I don't really understand it. Just like, because I'm just doing quick math here, but
yeah, I'm looking at the math here too. The math isn't adding up.
Like, I don't like Norlander at all, but if you could get DJ Henley and Norlander, I would do that because you're getting thousands of dollars in salary over Seamus, EVR, and Casey. So,
yeah, I wonder if it's not Powers. I wonder if it's somebody.
Yahoo. There you go. I still would lean that way, just even though Seamus is just clearly the 6th golfer by a mile of those 6, and that makes it difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I know that Yahoo's pricing is different. I would still lean those first 3. I think that Norlander versus Power, it's a tough one. And then Henley and DJ versus EVR and Casey, I think I'm leaning DJ Henley there. I think that EVR and Casey are both live. That's a tough one, but at this point, I would take Norlander over Powers, I think.
I'm with you.
Okay, so Roger Sloan, we talked about. I believe you and I think that he's got a chance to make the weekend. Yes, let's see. Did we? Sepp Straka is last one coming in here at the 10 o'clock hour. We'll end our show with Sepp Straka talk. Why not?
Sure, why not? I don't have any. I went to Johnny Vegas. I went up to Ryan Moore. I get it. You know, he can get hot. He needs to make a couple putts, but there's too many guys. If you start going down that route, you need to cap it somewhere. I'm not saying he can be in or out, but you can't take them all. There's too many guys like him.
All right, let's end it with your hot take then, since you nailed it last week with a Spaniard and Johnny Rahm. I don't think I heard you actually. You thought about saying one, and then we went back.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with Swafford. I think that's
Swafford. Okay,
I think he can get in the mix. I know that's very aggressive. You don't need a ton to get over in DFS, but to me, this is wide open. You know, of course, DJ is the best player, but if he stumbles, then so you could see a first time winner here, a guy who's really off, the radar, and it wouldn't shock me. So I think we did it. Not bad. What do you say, man? All good?
Yeah, I think so, dude. I think it's a different event, obviously, with the field strength. But hey, we're still playing for that $1 million on DraftKings, still playing for a couple of K on the other sites as well, including SuperDraft, our sponsor of the show. So I want to thank them, of course, for that. And we've got a heck of a stretch of golf coming up. We've got 2 majors in the next basically 35 days, PGA Championship in 2 weeks. So I know all the other sports are coming back, but don't forget about us. We've got some great golf coming up. Ben, why don't you give us all some parting words and let someone know that they're going to win the Millie this week?
Someone's going to win it. We're going to build on Rinpack. We had some good sweat. Both of us had good sweats last week. We did not get it done on Sunday, but we're doing good here. And we're going to keep it rolling, Chad. I know there's been a lot of success, and we want to keep that going. So all things are looking up. When this show started, I was very certain I was going to lose power. We had massive storms, and I'm still here talking. So
gotta love that.
we made it on that note. Thanks, everyone. Hit the like button on your way out. It really does help us. If you have any questions, follow us on Twitter. Hit us up in Slack chat. We've got it all, and we'll be back next week for the WGC. Same time, same place. Good luck, everyone.